It'll wake me up at night, and last night I didn't even get a single hour of good sleep. So if this stinks, you can blame Dave. Okay. Please pray with me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on these your people, that the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts may be acceptable to you. Amen. Okay, so I have no formal musical training whatsoever, but here you go. I'll give it my best. Okay. Fahu fores, dahu dores, welcome Christmas, bring your light. Fahu fores, dahu dores, welcome Christmas, Christmas night. Who doesn't know where that's from? Oh, that is from, anybody wants to share? The Grinch. It feels festive every time I hear that and other songs of the Christmas canon. So, okay, no musical training here, as you can tell. I already warned you about that, but let's try again. There's another song that's become popular during the Christmas season, even though it is not a Christmas song. You're familiar with it. It goes, raindrops on roses, whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Okay, so not so much for the singing, so let's go with the words. Putting up the Christmas tree and decorations, opening the Advent calendar day by day, getting a phone call from a loved one, going to bookstores with my family, living on the shore of Lake Superior, looking at flowers in my garden or smelling of baking bread in my kitchen, hearing and seeing birds from my living room window, a former student reaching out with an update, spending time with my children. I am sure that you all have a list of your own, of your favorite things. And if this sermon introduction pleases you despite my singing, you're not alone. Because who doesn't want to think about the things that make us happy? Who is not able to pause and consider the reason for the season and to look ahead to the birth of a baby in a manger? I don't know about you, but the birth of a baby is a happy occasion, always for me. I love to steal their essence. It rejuvenates me. They have plenty of it to spare. And who doesn't enjoy the twinkling of lights and the sparkle that goes up during the darkest time of year? And we know darkness up here, because by 3 p.m. we have to start turning on our lights. And by 7 p.m. we feel like we've been up all night. There is so much that's available to us to make the season bright. And if that's all that you're interested in today, we can go home. If your goal up to this point is to just feel good, we can be done with the sermon. And this is especially true when we think about things that make us happy. And that high note. We've already lit the Advent candle for today. We relit hope and the peace candles. And today we lit the pink candle. Lighting the pink candle, even though it's a pretty pale pink today, but lighting that pink candle always gives me happy feelings. Because it's just this unusual color in the church, pink. And don't you think that it's just such an appropriate, sweet color to have on the Sunday of joy? Well, it would be a happy moment if that is what Joy of Advent were about. So I'm asking you to stay with me just a little bit longer to explain to you that the joy that we encounter during Advent is not about feeling happy. That said, I would like for you to stick with me on this, to linger a little bit on these Advent themes that we've been exploring so far. to consider the themes of hope, peace, joy, and love, and that they are not designed to get you in the mood for celebrating the birth of Jesus. These 4 things are not about feelings, though we can feel warm and fuzzy during this season. These Advent themes are the start of our church calendar. We've got the start of a regular year in January. We've got the start of fiscal years in July. We've got the start of the Christian year in Advent. We started with telling the story of the birth of Jesus, and then we end the Christian calendar, which we did just a few weeks ago, with Christ the King Sunday. So Advent is our start, and it is preparing us for the journey that we're going to have as a follower of Jesus, as a believer of the Christ, God with us, however you want to interpret that. These Advent themes reveal what is needed for Christian discipleship and what we will gain from our walk as followers of Jesus. Advent starts us off with what we will need on this Christian journey. These 4. We need these to gain hope, peace, joy, and love as we face the human condition and its endless challenges. The gospel, the good news of Jesus, the life of discipleship, the path of a follower, however you want to call it, this is what the Christian calendar outlines for us, and it starts with Advent. It is how we begin this journey every single year, year after year, and it is what we need in order to persist on this journey for the rest of the calendar year. Because of that, we will lose our grounding if we reduce hope, peace, joy, and love to emotions and to nostalgia that is attached to the list of our favorite things. We will lose our grounding. Hope, which we've already gone through in Advent, is not about wish fulfillment, right? Crossing our fingers, wishing upon a star. Please, I hope everything goes well over the holidays. I hope my food tastes really good. I hope we can put our differences behind and Uncle Bob doesn't bring up politics. I hope. Roll out the candles you wish. Hope in Advent is not about wish fulfillment. It is about waiting faithfully. Right now, we are focused on waiting for the birth of Jesus. And we also hold the hope that God is going to reveal to us what celebrating this child means for us. Hope is the anticipation of God's plan to develop in our lives and the anticipation of us living closer and closer into the kingdom. The hope that we are given in Advent is necessary for standing on the conviction that we know God's kingdom is at hand. We talk about it all the time. It's right there. It's right at hand, within reach. And we need the conviction of our faith to anticipate its expansion. So not just that it's right there at hand, but that it is expanding. Hope. Peace in Advent is not about having a conflict-free life. Not sure if you needed to hear that as Christians, but it is not about living a conflict-free life. The peace that we prepare for is a deep grounding of ourselves in the gospel message and in the teachings of Jesus. And regardless of the trials that we face or the way that we feel like the world is going up in flames sometimes, peace is the calming, grounding nature of God's Spirit guiding us through the storms. It is the beginning of the story of our Christian journey, the story of a silent night in a manger. That's how we are introduced to peace, this moment of sweet stillness. The peace that we are given during Advent is necessary, absolutely necessary, because the struggles that we experience as humans are unavoidable. Peace is the promise of grounding, clarity, and calm in the storm. And that brings us to joy. Joy in Advent is not about happy feelings or warm fuzzies or our list of favorite things. Joy is a state of being that we must develop and carry if we are to live out our discipleship. I've shared my short list of some of the things in life that make me happy, but I want to revisit that list of my favorite things through the lens of joy, not happiness. Sorry. 1. Oh man, you need a little table here. Okay. 1, putting up the Christmas tree and decorations. That makes me happy. This year, I put up the Christmas tree earlier than usual. I needed to bring some light into my home and into my space. I took the artificial tree out of its box, the one that cost us $20 at the Family Dollar in Kanab, Utah, the one that we've been carting around since Esperanza's first Christmas. She's 22. I pull each little branch from the box and I spread the little limbs with care. It's an old tree. And we have already lost 2 little sprigs from all the folding and unfolding, folding and unfolding of these 22 years of Christmases. And it will wear out the little wire. And of course it would. And like I said, I've lost a couple. And still for some reason, I keep them in the box with the rest of them. Part of that process of decorating my tree is to walk around the tree a dozen times. A few dozen times at least, stringing the lights, distributing the bells, the sparkles, the gently unwrapping each decoration, anticipating which one each one is, and finding just the right place for the ones that have made it this far in our many journeys and moves. With that, I'll also take out this large nutcracker, beautiful piece that Esperanza, as an elementary school kid, bought with her little spending money as a gift to us, this nutcracker, when she went to the ballet of the nutcracker, she brought this little festive fella home for the family. Or the lovely snow globe with a portly Santa, his tiny little friendly head atop an immense body with this wonderful beard that blends right into his roundness. Or the sculpture of the 3 wise men that I bought at an artisanal shop in Old San Juan, Puerto Rico, along with the ornament of them that I forgot at home and I meant to bring to show you. All of this reminds me of my old culture, of my Christmas traditions in my motherland. And there is joy. Or the Advent calendar that we open day by day. Filling the Advent calendar is always a wonderful time for me. I think about what 3 pieces of candy to fit in each box so that each kid gets a piece. Or if multiple of them fit, I make sure to count out equal amounts. The fun part is always surprising them with different kinds of goodies and seeing them take turns as to who's going to slide open each drawer, because whoever opens it gets first dibs. And so they've decided to take turns in opening them. There's a wonderful equanimity in how they've approached it, and there's joy in that. Or getting a phone call from a loved one. I have had many voicemails saved on my phone, and I just barely cleaned out about 7 of them that were saved, and I kept 2. Each time I needed to get to the most recent message that was saved, usually something important, I had to go through these other old saved messages that I've had for years. But I won't delete them because one of them is from Don, the former pastor and beloved octogenarian, the person who was one of my reasons for moving to Utah a couple of years ago. His raspy voice from years of chain smoking warms my heart. Hi, Ruthie. It provides me with a sweet stillness and a deep love each time I hear his voice. It reminds me of the work that we put in to get to this place in our relationship. And there is joy. Or going to bookstores with the family, happy times, right? Well, when we go to the bookstore with the kids, I'll observe them interacting with each other. I look at their animated faces, even though I can't hear what they're saying, and their emphatic expression of things, and the others waiting for their turn to jump in and share their view on whatever it is they're talking about. And as I move around the store, any store really, they follow me around like little ducklings, even as old as they are. And I tell them they can go and look at whatever they want now at this stage in life, but no, they follow me around like ducklings. And there is joy. Or living on the shore of Lake Superior. That makes me happy. When I drive to Ashland from here, or anywhere really, I usually go through Hayward, where 63 dead ends. It tees at Highway 2. And if you've been there and you take that right into Ashland, you drive until the trees clear and it opens up and gives way to the shock of water, open water. It's a sight for me that never gets old, that never stops being an invitation for grounding and healing. I look across the water and I commune with Lake Superior, always giving her thanks for the invitation and for her gift of eagles and great blue herons, swans, pelicans, and other water birds. It is for me more than a wonderful view. It is an extravagant welcome, a welcome gift full of reminders that I am a steward of this place, just as this place is a guardian of my spirit. And there is joy. Or looking at the flowers in my garden, or smelling the wonderful scent of baking bread. But you see, I've always had long nails, and that's a real challenge for someone who loves to bake and garden without gloves. Dirt and dough get packed under your fingernails. That's a given. And I see some of you nodding and smiling, those of you who are purists and don't use gloves. Putting my hands into that matter, whatever it is so full of potential and promise to grow and to gift us with the things that we can go our entire lives taking for granted. Simple things like bread and soil. But the way that seed bursts into colorful patches of cosmos, they've taught me that even those delicate-looking plants with flower petals that dance in the wind, they are sturdy and defiant well into fall. Or the way that you punch down bread dough and its promise that my effort and creativity will result in something delightful, something that will send my home into an excited buzz, and especially Carlos into such an excited tone when he discovers that I've made fig cinnamon rolls. Joy is there. Or hearing and seeing birds from my front window, that's a happy moment. But you see, there's a hummingbird that has claimed my flower garden. Mostly he perches on the large pine trees in front of the house and takes breaks between feedings at my scarlet bee balm. Breaks before returning to eat, breaks before wandering to the other flower bed that he's also claimed, breaks between chasing off other hummingbirds who dare to snack on his garden. I watch the bluebirds who bathe at the huge puddle that inevitably forms at the bottom of my driveway. But there they are, bathing. And between baths, they dig in my flower bed for the juiciest, plumpest worms you've ever seen. Or the bees and the bumbles, and wasps and flies, and other flying critters that flitter between coneflowers, foxgloves, dwarf bee balm, phlox, catmint, gladiolas, mums, white asters, and more. I am reminded that my connection to the earth is my connection to even the smallest critters around me. So I watch them, especially the bumbles, and their wisdom on taking naps on flowers after so much delicious work. There is joy there. Or a former student reaching out to me with an update. I have lots of those. From years of working in higher ed, I have built long-lasting relationships with many, many young people. They're not young anymore. One of those, Gabby, is my adopted daughter. I will get texts from her in book format. She sends me textbooks just like I send textbooks. They start usually with, "Hi, Mom, how's Dad doing?" And they launch into the most generous and loving words this beautiful human has to offer. This amazing person who is a gift of a human says, "Mom." And I hold her tenderly for her willingness to see me this way. This beautiful woman who lost her mama by the age of 5. There is no way for me to be sad or forget my gifts because Gabby brings them into full relief. The things that she sees in me that are wonderful, and she gifts me with exuberant affirmations. All I can do is take it in, marvel, and learn about generosity and joy. Spending time with my children, right? When I travel between Ashland and Ladysmith, or Utah and Ladysmith, or wherever I may be living versus where my family is, it is never lost on me that my children still live with us. Now, Carlos just turned 15, so he is stuck with us for some time. But our older 2 children are still home. One is 22, and the other will be 20. They are in the house with their messes, reminding me that the lessons I tried to impart about maintaining a cleanish home didn't take. And I realize that the preferences on how to stack dishes to dry, or how often someone should run the vacuum, or everyone's threshold for dust being so much higher than mine, yet I relish living in their company because they are not running from us. They are not trying to heal from extreme trauma. They are comfortable and secure and accepted enough that they are okay with continuing to get on my last nerve about cleaning the cat litter or getting the trash out of my car. But knowing that that is the challenge that we face as a family is truly a source of deep and abiding joy. Or let's say improvisationally, right? Today we lit these candles. That's a happy moment. But to light them with a child visiting our church who is willing to come up here in the middle of, a bunch of gray heads, right? There's joy in that. It's easy to feel happy, but it takes preparation and practice to experience those circumstances from a place of joy. A joy that is grounded, where wholeness exists, which are essential for us to stand in a state of joy. It is a state of being, joy, rather than the capricious, fleeting emotion that is just feeling happy. Joy, like hope or peace, is the promise and the fruit of our discipleship. It is an outcome, a natural byproduct of striving to live as a faithful follower of Jesus. And so I want to take you a step further, if you will allow me. I mean, what choice do you have, right? You don't tell the pastor to stop preaching. But I'm going to take you a step further. A step in understanding how joy comes from walking in our discipleship. Joy comes from living our lives as Jesus attempted to impart on anyone who would listen to him. And here's how I know that hope, peace, joy, and love are the promises and the fruit of being a Christian. And of the four, I think that joy happens to be the one to best demonstrate how it is a gift and it is the fruit of our discipleship. It's easy to take my list of favorite things and unpack, right, how those things translate into joy. I'm sure you have your list of favorite things, and if you sat for a moment, you can unpack those to really delve into what it means to be joyful within that happy moment. But what happens when the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad? What happens then to joy? The sweet part of the song is that you can simply remember your favorite things and then you don't feel so bad. But joy does not promise you happy feelings. Joy promises you a state of being that you need in order to show up as brothers and sisters to one another. Here is how joy has shown up for me recently, even when the dog bites and the bee stings. Two dear friends of mine lost a loved one this past week. My sweet and spunky friend, Tiffany, lost her grandmother. She was a lucid 92-year-old. She fell and passed away from the complications related to the fall at her advanced age. There is nothing happy in that. And yet I derive the grounding effect that joy brings, knowing that this friend felt community with me and shared her grief with me. And though there was nothing happy in that moment, I know that she experiences joy at the connection that she had with her grandmother. One of my best friends, whom I've known since I was about 14, Radimus, he lost his nephew this week to all of the heartaches that add up from a life of fighting addiction. My phone rang and I expected the easy, loud Puerto Rican laugh and playfulness of my friend on the other line. But he was weeping at the news of this loss. Happiness is sure to be derailed in such a tragic development. And yet, I feel joy knowing that I encouraged him not to give up on his nephew, not to turn his back on him, to just always answer the phone at the very least. I feel joy knowing that he didn't give up on his nephew, knowing that his decision to be there as much as he could for his nephew will grant him a grounding and even a joy eventually at having persisted. You won't find happiness in those circumstances, but you can find joy. When the dog bites, when the bee stings. My oldest friend in life is a source of both happiness and consternation. We talk past each other regularly. We struggle not to get defensive at anything or everything the other person says that even resembles criticism. I'll tell you, I have shed many tears. The world, in fact, would urge me to cut my losses, to guard my peace, to focus on what makes me happy. But where there is joy, there is a new lens through which we see one another. You see, when I see this friend in person, I see what he doesn't. I see the way his face changes from serious and flat in order to reveal nothing vulnerable to the world, and if only to send the message that you do not want to cross him. But when I open the door, I see that mask melt. Tenderness replaces guardedness. The ice the world has taught him to nurture melts to unravel where the smile lines are. The shoulders drop. The voice softens. The challenges, the frustrations, the disconnect all give way to joy. Joy allows me to see beyond. He doesn't see it, but I can. And I am reminded of the deep, abiding joy inside me that creates an extravagant welcome for someone who has been regularly bruised by life. There is joy that they can trust in my care for them. Joy for the way connection of true friendship puts us in service of one another in times of hardship. There is joy in those of us who know that while we cannot take the pain away of the loss and the aches of the people we care about, we cannot erase their traumas, the traumas that have sculpted such elaborate walls. We know that we can be steady, loving, present, and vulnerable. To be able to show up for others when they need us, to be able to turn to others when our own well runs dry. There is joy even in those low places. The way that my uncle, for example, has resolved to take care of my grandmother until her passing. My last living grandparent is dying of cancer, and my uncle, who is overwhelmed and exhausted, has resolved that he can show up, standing on his principles and living them in remarkable ways. And I feel that joy, that my uncle is a man of his faith and convictions, even when the dog bites and the bee stings. Or take the fact that this community is taking care of a family in exile. Let's go there. I guarantee you that every moment and every interaction is not going to be a happy one. They carry the burden of losing their home and learning to adapt to this wackadoodle place. And I don't mean just Ladysmith, I mean this country. They carry that burden. That is a tall order. Many here feel like it's a challenge trying to help with the needs and to maintain open communication as it is in any circumstance of showing up for one another. No, every moment is not going to be happy. We're going to fall short regularly. Happiness is going to let us down. We're going to trip over ourselves in significant ways. We're going to misinterpret one another, especially them, and we're going to justify our concerns. In other words, we're just going to show up as human as we are. When the dog bites, you must have practiced enough to embody and call upon joy. When the bee stings, you must be committed in your Christian walk to see the joy in tribulation, in the blunder that happens in translation. The good news and the teachings of Jesus humanize us to ourselves and to each other. Hope, peace, joy, and love are not merely feelings that we experience during Advent. They are the promises God gives us of a life of discipleship. It's a promise because along the journey, we will need hope. And I don't mean it as a way of fulfilling our wishes. We will need peace. And I don't mean that as a way of avoiding conflict or winning some popularity contest. We will need joy. And I don't mean that as a list of our favorite things with our incredibly fickle human attention span. And we will need love. And I don't mean the ways that our hearts flutter when we consider the people that we already love. Advent is an invitation to preparing the foundation as we begin our Christian journey at this beginning of the Christian calendar. Today, we're in the season where we anticipate that sweet, silent night of a babe born in a manger. It's one of our favorite things, isn't it? To stand around in the dark church with candles singing Silent Night. That's for today. But tomorrow, we're going to anticipate the tragic silent night of this very story as we journey through Lent and to Good Friday. A different kind of silence, a different kind of stillness, a different kind of mood. And yet, even there is hope, peace, joy, and love. They must be there for this Christian journey. So I'm going to wind this down, even though I still have a couple pages, but I'm going to tell you we're winding down. On the one hand, this congregation has been very fortunate to have a pastor who provides very clear, scripture-grounded, responsible sermons about Scripture and the life of Jesus. Dave's sermons, if you didn't know, are worthy of a church in Princeton among scholars and theologians. There is your biblical foundation. Therein lies the what. What is the gospel? What does Jesus mean by that? What were the disciples struggling with? What do the gospel writers want us to understand? But Christianity is not two-dimensional. It is not about an individualistic faith. Christianity is a lived reality. It requires us to practice. And the lectionary readings are designed to prepare us for that walk along the Jesus way. How we live into our Christian discipleship matters. Advent gives us the how. Does it matter which day Jesus was born in? Does it matter when the wise men arrived? Does it matter what route Joseph took to escape persecution? Maybe. But I do know that what does matter is how we understand the story and how it compels us to live. Advent tells us from the very beginning, you will need hope. You will need peace. You will need joy, and you will need love for this journey ahead. And you will need those in the ways that Jesus shows us, not in the way that the world markets, packages, monetizes for our consumption. You will need those in the way that Jesus shows you. The how is being laid out for us right from the beginning. How do you live into your Christian path? Well, you're going to need hope, peace, joy, and love. We need this more than any somersault we've ever done to justify our views or argue on behalf of our theologies. Our views and ideas, our theologies and our practices will not sustain us on the Christian journey unless they are grounded in a way of being. Along the path, this Christian path that we walk this year, we're going to encounter a man beaten and bloodied by the side of the road. And when we encounter that man, we will understand this next time that we encounter this man beaten and bloodied on the side of the road, we are going to understand how hope, peace, joy, and love were in fact the foundation of the Good Samaritan who stopped to help. Plenty of others passed that man. Plenty of people looked away. But to love our neighbors, that's the what? Love your neighbors. How do we love them? Well, the way that we love our neighbors, that's the how. And we can only love God insofar as we love our neighbors through our actions. The ways that we love our neighbors as ourselves. The only way that I know anyone loves God, regardless of what they profess, is how well they love their neighbor. The one who is foreign and injured, dirty and ostracized. And how do I know that your love of neighbor comes from a place of genuine discipleship? Well, at least this Sunday, I can know how much you love God by how much you love your neighbor, and anyone should be able to see any Christian who loves their neighbor as standing 10 toes down for joy. It won't all be happy moments and agreement and consensus, but joy should be easy to spot. It should be easy for you to find it, despite how many times the dog bites or the bee stings. This Advent, I encourage you to revisit your understanding of joy. I challenge you to see hope, peace, joy, and love as the blueprint of your foundation. It is what we must work on in order to walk as disciples. These are going to be required of us over and over again, not as feelings or sentiments, but rather as our frame of reference, as our grounding, and as our process for living into life with one another. We will need these through the story that's going to unfold on our journey to the cross. We will need these through the long season of green vestments and ordinary time. We will need these to make it to the end of our yearly journey and actually come to understand at the close of the year how it is that we declare Christ the King. That is the final Sunday of our church calendar. But here we are at the start, and it starts with Advent and ends with Christ the King. Hope, peace, joy, and love in all we do. It is the promise of our discipleship. And it is what discipleship is put into the practice of care and service for one another. It is where our hope, peace, joy, and love don't have to be announced because they have become second nature. Indeed, they will know we are Christians by our love. I want to close by reading the one lectionary reading that we didn't have today. It is a passage from Isaiah, and I want you to listen with very honest and practical ears, because the lectionary put this reading as one of the ones that we should tackle on this Advent Sunday of joy. There must be a connection that they want us to see. There is something that the lectionary assemblers want us to understand. On this Sunday of joy, we have the prophet Isaiah telling us this: the desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom like crocuses. It will burst into blooms. It will rejoice greatly and shout for joy. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it. The splendor of Carmel and Sharon, they will see the glory of the Lord, the splendor of our God. Strengthen the feeble hands, steady the knees that give. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear. Your God will come. He will come with vengeance, with divine retribution. He will come to save you. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame will leap like a deer, and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. The burning sand will become a pool, the thirsty ground bubbling springs. In the haunts where jackals once lay, grass and reeds and papyrus will grow. And the highway will be there. It will be called the highway of holiness. It will be for those who walk on that way. The unclean will not journey on it. Wicked fools will not go through it. No lion will be there, nor any ravenous beast, but they will not be found there. But only the redeemed will walk there. And those the Lord has rescued will return. They will enter Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. Joy, where in the description you can scarcely find happiness, I'm sure of it, in parched lands, in fearful hearts, in the beaten body of someone who cannot walk. And yet, joy exists there. For the people and the land that have been starved and abused, we know that the road to joy is difficult. Yet there it is. This Old Testament verse reads like the kingdom of God for those of us who identify as Christian. We read it and we read into it the kingdom of God. And to our ears, we should know that happiness in any circumstances is fleeting and even insulting for those experiencing extreme pain and trauma. But joy never is insulting. Joy is a promise. Hope, peace, joy, and love work together for the very people who are least promised those things in our world. What the world cannot give us, the kingdom promises. And we are its agents of hope, peace, joy, and love. So ask yourself this season, what does it mean to show up with this kind of hope in the face of a culture riddled with instant gratification? What does it mean to show up with this kind of peace in the face of guarding our individualistic, conflict-free, humanly detached goals? What does it mean to show up with this kind of joy in the face of the depleting reality of our human condition, the constant abuses and the degradation of our humanity? What does it mean to show up with this kind of joy? What does it mean to show up with this kind of love in the face of tribalism, nationalism, and our hyper-individualism. What I know is that the start of Lent, the start of Advent, it greets us with hope, peace, joy, and love. It greets us with that because we need those on our walk. And the more that we walk in discipleship, the more fully we will experience and live into those four. We are its agents in this world. Amen.
Our next hymn now